Hello. So, I am gonna just start reading today, and it's Ephesians 4, starting at verse Ephesians 4, starting in verse 4. It says, "There's one body and one spirit, and as ye are called in hope, and ye are called in one hope of your calling. There's one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is above all and through all and in you all." So there's just one. And so I read that, and it's contrary to what I've been taught, because this says here that there's one faith. But I heard there's the seed faith, there's the saving faith, there's all these different types of faith. There's this new faith because your old faith won't do the same thing your new faith will. And so it's like, as a Christian, you have to carry around this keychain covered with faith. And so when you have run into a problem, you have to pull out that keychain and go through all the keys until you find the correct key that's going to unlock your miracle for your faith. And so here it says here in Ephesians 4:5 that there's one faith. And so in Romans 12:3, it says that each man's been given a measure of faith, which we've all been given a measure of faith. Jesus speaks to this with Peter in the boat, because he said, "Oh, you have little faith." I've been told that just meant for a short amount of time, but if you reference it, it just means that you have small faith of not very much. So if Peter could do that with just a measure of faith, just imagine what he could have done if he had the spirit of faith. And so we know that it was the spirit of faith that was walking on water, because when they saw Jesus, they said, "Wait, oh man, is that a ghost?" And people think, "Oh man, well that's lack of faith." But no, I think that was a reference to the Holy Ghost, not that it was lack of faith on their parts. But that's something different. So we have a measure of faith, and then in John 3:24 says that Jesus has faith without measure. And so it's how do we move from the measure of faith to the faith that Jesus has. And so that, I think that's what the term means, move from faith to faith, because you move from faith in yourself to the faith in Jesus, which is without measure. And so as we move to that faith, we can then move from glory to glory, because we're going to have victory. Now, victory sometimes doesn't come without a struggle, because the struggle is real, and but we always make it through. It may not work out the way we want it to, but it always works out for the best. And then also, so says that we have in Romans 8:11 says that we have the same spirit that Jesus has. And so we're sitting here walking around with this keychain of faith, thinking that we only have a measure of faith, when the whole time we have the same faith that Jesus has. And so we should be doing the same thing Jesus did, doing the same things that Jesus has done. And I don't know how that's supposed to look, but I think it's just good to get the right expectation out, because I think that we all have this expectation because it's been preached to us, so we don't have enough faith, and we just have this measure of faith, and so we got to do what we can. But in all reality, we have the spirit of faith, the same spirit that Jesus has, and so that should give us the confidence and boldness to do and say things that we don't normally do and say, so that we can have things and experience things that we don't normally have and experience. And this isn't, I don't claim to have all the answers. I'm just talking to you what I see in the Bible and how it differs from what we're taught. If people just read the Bible, there's so much in the Bible that's not talked about, because they find, what I feel is, it's kind of like salespeople will find something that works, and then they just do it over and over and over again. I mean, I work on the phones all day, and so I find something that makes people laugh. I find a joke, something that makes people laugh. I talk about my kids and get people involved, and so I just do that over and over and over again. I probably tell like the same jokes like 8 or 9, who knows how many times. But the same in Christianity. I feel like that they find something that works, like, oh well, this gets a response out of the congregation, so they just beat it like a dead horse, and so they totally negate every other thing that says something totally different to what they're teaching other people, and so it's just wrong. And so if you just read the Bible for yourself, and when you see something that doesn't match up with what you've been taught or what you think it's supposed to say, then ask other people about it. Or maybe you should start talking to Facebook about it and see if people will comment and give you any answers, or put it on YouTube or do something like that. But there's just so much in the Bible that I feel is taught incorrectly and leaves people wanting Jesus, when we need to understand that we have Jesus and that we have the same things Jesus has, and we can do the same things Jesus can do. The only difference between Jesus and me is that I am a seed of Adam. So I was born with sin in my flesh. Jesus was a seed of God and Eve. So he has flesh, but he didn't have sin in his flesh, and that's why he was able to be a spotless sacrifice. Because if Jesus would have been a seed of Adam, he would have been punished on the cross, and then he would have got what he deserved, because that's what sin deserves. But because of how he was punished on the cross, all the things that he got, he didn't deserve. We all deserve that. And so that's how he was able to pay the price for us, because he was our propitiation. He was our satisfaction in wrath. So don't think that the wrongdoing in your life is causing a spiritual evil in your life, because God is only spirit. There's one spirit. The bad things you do in your life have natural repercussions. We just like to blame it on spiritual things, because then we can not take responsibility for it. Like, oh well, I tried this, I tried that, it didn't work, and so I guess I got to do something else. Or I'll pull out my keychain of faith and try a different key next time. But just know that you're complete in who you are, and no matter how many bad things you've done, it doesn't affect your blessing. It doesn't affect anything with God. The only thing it affects is you and your thinking. All right, have a good day. Talk to you later.